I believe the hope we have for this world is directly correlated to how often we allow ourselves to dream. And frankly, I'm fucking over people putting dreams in boxes of what's realistic or sensible or practical when we'd never ask that of hope. I know you feel tired. I do too. We're doing it anyway. A podcast for tired dreamers, unpacking the expectations, the conditioning, the fear and shame alongside other cages we may not yet know we're living inside. By the way, I'm Kate. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the She's Hungry podcast, and actually the final episode of the She's Hungry podcast. And if you're sitting there right now like, what is happening? I'm here to A, explain why, and B, also tell you some exciting news about the next upcoming chapter. So what to expect during this episode is kind of an explanation, but also an invitation that I don't feel like we should ever be scared to, like, what we're leaving, what is ahead is better than anything you leave behind, is essentially what I'm trying to say. And I feel so deeply connected to this audience and the people that have supported me, not just by listening to the show, but actively reaching out and telling me about how much this content, even in the very selective and very inconsistent episodes that have come out in the second iteration of the show, it's truly meant so much to me. And that's why the integrity at which I show up here felt deeply important to me. And also at the same time, I was continuing to create under, the She's Hungry headline because I was afraid that if I, pivoted away from the familiarity of this space and this audience and, what it grew into before, that, I don't know, there's something that I would miss out on, or something I wasn't taking advantage of, or something I wasn't grateful for. And it took a lot over the last couple of weeks. And I actually think it's probably over months, potentially even years, because I love doing the podcast. I really do. I love showing up here, and I really love recording and all this stuff, but that goes along with this. But there's just been such resistance. And I thought it was about this thing, and I thought it was about that thing, and I thought it was about the location I was recording in, and there is a lot of that in there too. And also, I just think that there was an internal expectation that was wrapped up in my ego on, could this iteration of the show be as good as it used to be? Could it, go viral like the last one did? Could it rank on iTunes like the last one did? And even though I didn't explicitly say those things out loud, and I never actually thought those kinds of things mattered to me in this second iteration, I think that just, this subliminal or subconscious link between continuing to show up inside of the She's Hungry headline and the She's Hungry podcast, that I kind of felt like a dog with its tail between its legs. That I'm like, oh yeah, I'm back. What can we create from this space? And how can I salvage what I made before, if I'm honest? And none of that energy actually resonates with me and who I am right now. And the most important thing that I feel like I could do with my life at this point in my life is to do my very best as often as I can to live inside of the integrity that I know to be who I am as a person. And just have trust and faith that what is ahead is better than anything we leave behind. And I want to give myself a chance to grow and to fully step into this next iteration of me. And I feel like for those of you who've been around since the beginning or have just listened to the genuineness of my heart over the few and far between and very inconsistent episodes that have been here in this show, in this iteration, that by, leading by example and saying, I am not exempt from fear. I'm not exempt from doing the work. I'm not exempt from falling short. I am a human, after all. And I hope by stepping into what really calls and really excites me and not trying to fit what calls to me and what's really exciting to me now into this old framework or this old box or this old expectation. Like, I just want to launch myself off the side of the cliff and know that there's never been a time in my life where I haven't, spread my wings and flew. I also have an incredible community now that's behind me in, relentlessly championing me and supporting me in whatever I want to create next. And so, as weird, honestly, it feels a little strange to say, this is where the chapter closes. But I'm so excited and so fortunate to feel like the seeds that are being planted and the identity that's now being rooted truthfully and like wholeheartedly inside of me with what is to come next feels like something I dreamt once upon a time, or probably honestly better than what I dreamt once upon a time. So I hope that listening to this episode, you will follow me to the next project, which I will talk about in 1 second, but that it encourages you to release old frameworks, to get super curious about what truly starting fresh, starting new would look like for you. There's an episode that I want to explore on the next podcast. Yes, there is another iteration of this coming out, and I'm excited about that. But the episode that I'm referring to is one that I'm very excited to record, but it's just about how we have a tendency, because our trauma and the things that we've been through have a way of shaping our identity so clearly in our core, especially when you start doing the work to unpack it. And I think that there is, and I might have talked about this in a previous episode a little bit, but there's like the awareness that we bring to where our triggers come from. And then sometimes I feel like that work stops, and then we're like, oh, now that I know, we begin this, graceful and maybe a little bit more compassionate, but essentially this like justification process for our trauma and our, our poor showings, or our how we show up poorly. And there's like a second part of that I think is very important, which is about the choice that comes after the awareness. But if we continue to hold our trauma and the things that we've been through so close to our chest as like almost armor to relive our pain or to justify why things are hard for us or more challenging for us, then we don't ever truly get to see who we could become if we release it and allow it to teach us what it is here to teach us, and then to release it and let it go. So that is my invitation for you, is that if there's something out there that you feel like you've been doing it before, or you've done it the same way, no inconsequentially, just take a piece of paper out and get like so experimentally crazy with it. Like, just have fun. I had a coaching session this week that was like, let's just do a conversational exploration. Take a walk with me. Let's just trust our intuition, and let's throw out a bunch of, arbitrary questions and examples, and just trust whatever comes up. And it's a fun exercise because there are no consequences to it. None at all. It's just an experiment. It's just a game. Make it fun. Dream big. And then maybe surprise yourself on what you get to learn about yourself on the other side of that, inside of this inconsequential game. Anyway, so that's my invitation to you. And whether you're new here or whether you've been listening since the beginning, from the bottom of my heart, I know I say this often, but I truly mean it. Your support and encouragement and listenership and the community that I've gotten from this place has completely changed my life. Back in 2018, when I started this show, I was alone in a way that I thought I was the problem. And no matter the twists and turns and inconsistencies and, however I showed up here from week to week, everyone has always just rallied around me in the name of being honest, in the name of being human, and I think in curiosity and exploration on what's possible for our lives when we have a safe place to explore it. And that doesn't stop here. So, because I don't plan on making this episode very long, and I actually have to get to yoga. The next iteration, the next project, and the place that you can find me is a podcast called The Problem Is You, a mindset podcast. So I have done just so much exploration and education over the last couple of years. And I always had this story in the back of my head around, who are you to think you could do this? Who are you? And I think that even with the She's Hungry podcast, there was a certain level of humor as a safeguard for my genuine and relentless curiosity in how powerful our minds really are. I mean, the whole premise of She's Hungry was I'm hungry to learn more. I'm hungry to explore. I'm hungry to connect. And obviously, in tandem, hungry to eat food. I've never been short of that by any means. But I just wanted to, with this iteration of The Problem Is You, it's all about the exploration of breaking down the things that block us from living a life that we love and that we're proud of. And inherently, for better or worse or otherwise, the call is coming from inside the house. And we have to be willing to really sit and unpack. And again, have a safe place to do that. To unpack the things that we tell ourselves, the things we don't know that we tell ourselves, but that are impacting us in a way every day that keep us small and stuck in the world. And it's been an honor of mine to work with the people that I have and illuminate these inconsistencies and these incongruencies so that they can see in a different perspective on the choices that they have to truly change their mind and transform their life. And it's powerful stuff. And so you can find The Problem Is You, a mindset podcast, on Spotify and Apple Podcast and all the places. It's hosted on my Substack, 12th House of Wild. But I'm really excited about this next new chapter, and I'm nervous too. There was a level of, accountability and responsibility that I had to come to terms with. And fear was trying to tell me that I wasn't going to be good enough and I wasn't worth it. And here I am, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because that's what we do here, So I'm going to read you, as the send-off, the intro to The Problem Is You, a mindset podcast, so you have a very clear indication on what to expect over there. Because overall, it'll be pretty similar. But I finally get to own it, truly own it. And that I'm excited about. I'm excited to give myself that opportunity to be and be seen for who I really am and what really lights me up in this world. So, thank you so much for this platform. Thank you so much for all the support. I never take your time for granted, and I will continue to not do so on The Problem Is You. Here's the intro. Ready to unlock the secret to unstoppable success? Spoiler alert, it's not about talent or intelligence. It's all about the mindset habits you build every single day. Welcome to The Problem Is You, the podcast that takes a curious deep dive into the wild world of the mind. We'll explore the fear, unpack disruptive patterns, and ditch the relentless expectations that keep us playing small in this amazing adventure called life. I'm Kate, your mindset coach and your go-to guide for all things psychology, neuroscience, NLP, and a few surprises in between. So, is the problem you? Yes. Yes, it is. But guess what? The solution is too. And here's the other good news. You're in the perfect place to pick up the tools and mindset hacks to change your life, starting right now. Well, there you have it. The intro for The Problem Is You, a mindset podcast. And I gotta say, I am so freaking excited. Even just listening to the intro, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to, record so many of the episodes right now. I feel like I could just do this all day. But I do have to get to yoga. So join me over there. If you're not following me on Instagram, if you are not part of the Substack community, which is free, or if you're not on my email list, I will put all three of those links in the show notes so it is easy for you to access them, because those are the three places that it will be announced when The Problem Is You podcast goes live. I don't anticipate that it should be a long time from now, simply because the amount of content that I am excited to create and put out and record and get feedback on and engage with is essentially pouring out my ears. So follow me in one of those areas, whether it's Instagram, whether it's the 12th House of Wild Substack, or on my email list. Like I said, I will put all the links in the show notes so that you can opt into that. And then you will be in the know as to when The Problem Is You comes out. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. This has been an honor. the people and the community that this podcast has allowed me to connect with and learn from and have conversations with and build genuine friendships and relationships with just blows my mind beyond my wildest dreams. And I never could have been and become who I am today without this community and without this space. I got to believe in myself in a completely different way because of this platform that I'm not sure I could have in the timeline in the way that I have without it. So thank you again. And I hope that you'll join me on The Problem Is You. So until next time, folks, I love you from the bottom of my heart, and always stay hungry.